Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. So, despite this channel being named after Archie Sonic, and that's what my profile picture is, I really haven't covered it that many times before. But one of the times I did was my 100 subscriber special, where I went over the greatest Sonic story ever, probably. So today I want to look at the most underrated Sonic story ever, and I kind of have a bit of a cold, sort of. I'm not really sure, so my voice isn't as good as it usually is. But anyway, so the story that I'm highlighting is not necessarily one specific story arc, but rather a continuous subplot theme sort of thing that just continues throughout the comic that deals with multiple characters. And funnily enough, it's only in Sonic Universe. So, and that theme is living weapons. So without further ado, let's do it to it and dive on in. So the story begins proper with Shadow and Metal Sonic in the first issue of Sonic Universe. After dueling across two worlds, as Shadow says, they have finally ended up in Blaze the Cat's dimension. And while they were fighting, Shadow's first instinct, after a while fighting, is he does not just continuously beat up Metal Sonic. He talks to him. He says, "You are a thinking machine, Metal Sonic, a living weapon like me. Do not let the Doctor use you as he has used me." He's trying to reach out to him, saying, "Hey, we're a lot alike. Don't let yourself be used just like I was." Metal Sonic, of course, does not care and just kicks him into the ocean, and thinking he's just going to drown. Of course, Shadow is saved by Blaze the Cat and Marine, and eventually he has to fight Metal Sonic again later in the issue. And after some action, he once again talks to him. He says how just causing a wanton destruction is beneath him, and that he shouldn't be led astray as he was. Again, sort of a similar thing he said before, but this is where things really change. And this is, in fact, might be the most memorable Shadow the Hedgehog quote to me out of the entire franchise. As he says, "You are only a tool in the Doctor's eyes, a weapon, something only for misery and destruction. Let us put our battle behind us, reject the Doctor, help me save our world." Again, and I like this because it shows a more deeper part of Shadow's character, which is something I'm grateful that the Dark Beginnings prologue did for Shadow Generations, which is that Shadow is not just some heartless jerk. He actually cares about people, and while it's true that in that prologue he was quick to action first, you can still see his more softer side. That's what's shown off here. He's not just going to dive right into the action. He wants to help people, because remember, Shadow has quite the rocky past. And while it's not as crazy in Archie, funnily enough, it's still pretty deep. So he just wants to help others. But this is where things get especially interesting, as Metal Sonic just processes this, and we can even see that Shadow is smiling during this. He's hoping and genuinely, maybe even believing that Metal Sonic will actually see his argument and join him. And when he does see his argument, he does not join him, as he asks him, "Your mission is to protect Mobius. That is your function?" "I suppose, yes." "This unit's function is to serve Dr. Robotnik, both living weapons, both operating to achieve their function. You are not different, you simply have an opposing function. This unit must destroy you, you must destroy this unit." I really wish you did not see it that way. Because Metal Sonic just puts it bluntly that, yes, it's true, they are both living weapons. But the thing is, as living weapons, as thinking machines, they both have a specific function. Shadow is to protect Mobius. Metal Sonic is to serve Robotnik. Whether he questions what Robotnik is doing is irrelevant. He doesn't care. That's his mission, so he's going to do it. And this does not... Shadow is upset of this, of course, and knows the only thing he can do now is fight him. But this is where we get to characters that you would definitely not expect to get so much depth. Gamma and Omega. So, yes, Gamma's story in Sonic Adventure is quite the nuanced one, but I mean, we all know that he dies at the end of that game. Except the thing is, we never actually saw Gamma die in the SA1 adaptation in Archie. He just kind of vanishes after the egg carrier crashes. So here we find out that, ever since then, Robotnik actually found out that Gamma was undermining him, unlike in the game. Over time, Gamma has been continuously going around to different areas controlled by the Eggman Empire and taking them down. So, what does Eggman do? He sends Omega after him. who's been in storage for over a year, who is super angry that he was finally let out of storage and his first mission was not to destroy Sonic the Hedgehog, even though he was created for that. Which, by the way, just off tangent, anyone else think Peter Cullen made a good Omega? Just me? No. Anyway, so things get really interesting here because before Omega jumps in, this whole living weapon thing continues. When Shadow gets his mission to find Gamma, he's thinking to himself that after losing Metal Sonic, he cannot let another living weapon be lost. He doesn't want. He wants to help people who are just like him. And he actually does find Gamma before Omega does, and he talks with him. And that scene pretty much explains why Shadow would even work for Gun and Archie, or in the games too, because again, Gun raided the Ark, killed Maria, kidnapped him, Professor Gerald, and essentially ruined his life. But here he says that Gamma tells him that, yeah, why would you work for the Guardian Units of Nations? You are the ultimate life form. Wouldn't assistance only slow you down? And Shadow says that, I thought once the same, but I was wrong. He says how it's good to have a team. You have backup, place to rest, place to get information so you don't have to waste your time searching everywhere. Being part of a team is a good thing. And hey, the gun, it says in the Archie Comic and Sonic Encyclopedia that he works to ensure the gun of today is nothing like the gun of his past. That's a good reason. So, anyway, Omega does come across Shadow and Gamma and hunts him down. He tells his brother that, yeah, he may have been impressive in his day, but now he's pathetic, he's slow, he's weaker than he is, and that he can defeat him easily. But then Gamma responds telling him that, yeah, you are super strong, but you're slow. You're a little unwieldy. He says, your jets are stronger, but you're louder. I do not have such limitations. I am nimble. I cover ground more easily. As for weaponry, pow pow. You are a walking arsenal. I am an assassin. And Omega responds with, you have made your point. And he tells him how, yeah, you know what? You are a pretty good opponent. I'm going to give you a glorious destruction. And as they have their final conversation, as Omega's about to blow up Gamma, he says that, you cannot destroy all of me, brother. You cannot destroy my soul. Further tying into this idea of living weapons, not just weapons or just machines, thinking machines. And Omega says, we are robots, we don't have those. And Gamma tells him, we can have them, and I will show you. And just before he's blown up, he sends his data stream to Omega. And this causes their codes to overlap until eventually, what happens is that Omega's is still Omega. His personality, his memory, he's all the same. But Gamma's soul, his consciousness, his emotions are transferred into him. As this is the last, I guess, sign of Gamma's existence. And now Omega has a soul. But this also means that he has emotions now and conflicting ideas. He says, so, now what? My purpose was to crush all life. Now the thought makes me uneasy. Now I have thoughts and can be uneasy. And Shadow tells him to join Gun. Help protect all life instead of crush, maim, and destroy? Yes. And he says, though, but to what end? If I have a life now, what is its purpose? Where do I find a place in the world I was meant to cover in glorious fire and doom? And this is where we get his game's motivation of taking down Eggman and working for Shadow, which is just, yeah, Eggman wasted his potential, I'm gonna go destroy him. But as we can see, it's more than just I was wasted, it's I have thoughts. Now that I have an actual consciousness, what do I feel about causing all this destruction? When I first read this, I already read a fair bit of Archie. I understood that it definitely went for a lot more mature of a story than the games, even the more mature games. For more deeper ideas, but this? I could not have expected something like this. This really goes all out, and hey, it was great. It really makes you care about Omega for more than just he is funny and Team Dark is cool. And then of course he has one of his classic quips or whatever, where he tells Shadow, if you tell anyone in Gun I made a grave marker or whined about my place in the world, I will turn you into linked sausage. And so Omega says, this mission, my mission, must continue. That is such quality writing. But then we get into what really made me want to make this whole video on this whole theme, which is Shard and Metal Sonic. So, I'm sure you're all familiar with Shard, one of the best Sonic characters ever. He was Metal Sonic originally, the original Metal Sonic. Learned the value of life from Sonic and Tails and sacrificed himself to save them. He comes back years later in real life, over a decade later, I think. Rebuilt with old Metal Sonic parts, and now he's kind of like Sonic, but his personality is different enough. So as we can see in Sonic Universe 50, which I wanted to make an analysis of just that story, Forged in Fire, but because it's one of the best Sonic stories ever made, easily Archie's best single issue story. But I thought that it would be better to talk about that issue along with all this other stuff. So it opens with a flashback from an earlier issue of him destroying just a random Metal Sonic as he looks at how these new Metal Sonics, they're just replacements. They're not really anything compared to him, and he just easily destroys them. Eggman is super mad at this though, so he uses a Power Gem, which is what powers Shard as well. The last one he has, which contains all of Metal Sonic's previous battles, his memories, everything, downloaded into a new version that can actually speak again. Which, can I just say that I love that Archie actually let Metal Sonic speak. Why can't he speak in the games? As Eggman says, that silent killer shtick was getting old. Anyway, this Metal Sonic is eager to fight Sonic, but Eggman tells him how, no, your first mission is to destroy this rogue robot. And perhaps he would have rebelled, this version of Metal Sonic has one slight difference from the other ones. Shard was able to gain free will or gain a consciousness because he had free will. This Metal Sonic was able to rebel in Sonic Heroes because he had free will. This version is built to be so that anytime he questions Eggman, he has some kind of weird reset. And now he is sent out to kill Shard. Then we get one specific page that has stuck in my mind. So, Sonic, Tails, and Amy have just come back from seeing Shard for the first time and he helped save their lives from the Kruzu hybrid Hydra. And Sonic is thinking about how they were saved by a Metal Sonic, when it was a killer robot himself. He all tried to kill them and kidnap them before. And Tails says, well, he did save our lives once he sacrificed himself. I'm happy that he's getting a second chance. And Sonic says, I'm not saying we shouldn't have given him a shot. He did help us out a lot. I just worry, that's a lot of power in someone who's still figuring out if he's a good guy or a bad guy. And who are the three people that Sonic imagines when he says this? One is Metal Sonic. Okay, Metal Sonic and Shard, duh. But why is there a third person? That third person is Scourge. Yeah, because as we saw earlier in a previous issue, that even after defeating him, even after proving that he's better, Sonic still thinks about Scourge. All the things he said to him, they're still with him. The kinds of things he had to face are always going to be with him. They're always going to be relevant to him. So when he sees a version of himself that was an evil version of himself that was given a second chance and became good, he thinks about how Scourge was also an evil version of me, except he could have been better. He just chose not to be, no matter what. All he wanted was just to be a huge jerk. Just so you know, I don't think I'm reading too much into this. Considering just how many layers of depth and nuance this whole story has, I am fully convinced I'm supposed to read super deep into this. But anyway, here we get a very nice scene. So, Shard is interacting with the one other living AI in this story, I guess, which is Nicole. And this is where we get a dynamic I would not expect to see, but it's a really good one. So, Shard and Nicole are just together, I guess. And we can see that Shard isn't just there because, he's just visiting her or something. I don't know. They work together on the Secret Freedom Fighters in an earlier story, but he's saying how he doesn't really feel comfortable joining the real world like she tells him he could because, as he says, he's a secret agent and an infamous killer robot. And Nicole says, well, you're a loyal, brave fighter. Your teammates like you. They see you as a friend. And he says, yeah, but that's just 6 people. The whole city just saw Metal Sonic as part of an invasion. And Nicole says how, well, the people of the city don't have fond memories of her either. After the whole Iron Nicole thing in the Iron Dominion saga, and she says that, but they're forgiving me now, and they can do the same for you. And he says, yeah, but you had Sonic and all his friends to vouch for you. When Sonic says she's cool and here's all the good she's done, people will listen. What can he say about me? Shard, oh yeah, great guy. Tried to kill me once, but whatever, right? And he says how, or he could say, you defy your coding to become someone better. And this is where we see that does Shard have a crush on Nicole? When I first read this, I thought, that's a little weird. I don't know if I like that, but rereading, I gotta say, no, I like this. I like this story. I like this whole dynamic. Also, we're just pairing up two characters you would never expect to see together, so it's just interesting. Again, Archie has so many characters, so you want to see these different personalities interact with each other, and that's what you get out of this, and this makes sense. But before you can say something very sweet to her, up, she's reads that Metal Sonic is attacking a hospital, and since he finds out this is Metal Sonic, he knows that this isn't just some Eggman robot, and he should know. And this is where his eyes turn red. I used to wonder how come Shard's eyes are sometimes red, sometimes they're green. I think it's that whenever he gets serious, whenever he goes into combat, they're red. Cool touch. And who does he find Metal Sonic trying to kill in the hospital? Just the comatose Antoine. And this is where we get the scene that fully solidified the story as a personal favorite. He tells Metal, come on, how about we take us outside? And he says, no, I need to fulfill my objective. And Shard says, really? Come on, Sleeping Beauty? There is no challenge. Let's keep this bot to bot, mecha to metal, brother to brother. And Metal Sonic, without hesitation, just says, brother, challenge accepted, and they fly off. Okay, there is so much to say here. I don't have much time either. Excuse me for a second. So, anyway, yeah. As we saw with Gamma and Omega, Eggman's robots see themselves as brothers. They might not really like each other, but since they were both built by Eggman, they see themselves as brothers. I think that's where some of the inspiration for Sage comes from in Sonic Frontiers. After all, Ian Flynn wrote both of these, which is that Sage sees Orbot and Cubot as her brothers. She asks Eggman that if they are, and he says, I guess so. So again, Metal Sonic sees Shard as his brother. Sort of his older brother, I suppose, because he's the original model. And this is what gets him to back off. Not because he just says, come on, let's go fight, this is a waste of time. It's because he specifically calls him his brother, and that's who this fight is between. And so, yeah, they go to the Great Wastes, which is, used to be Knothole Village before Eggman burned it down in issue 175, where the whole iconic limit scene comes from. So Shard says Metal Sonic says he wants to fight here because this site is proof of robotic superiority. And Shard responds with, If organics are so inferior, why do we aspire to be more like them? And don't deny it, you've got more of a spark to you than the last time. And Metal says, I was upgraded, perfected. And Shard responds with, perfect nothing. They fear us, and I'm working to turn that around. And you smashing up hospitals isn't helping, bro. And Metal says, irrelevant, brother. So as we can see, even though Metal is more sentient than before, all he sees is just a way to be a better fighter. That's all this is to him. And then we get one of the best action sequences I've ever seen in a comic book. This is Tracy Yardley, Jim Amash, he's an inker, great inker, and I guess Matt Herms is colorist too, at their best. This might actually be their best issue, at least in terms of action anyway. I think Tracy Yardley's had some better expression in some earlier stories, but this is just such a great action sequence. It looks incredible. And then we get to these 3 pages. So, as they continue their fight, Metal sees that since he has all of his memories, anything that Shard does that might resemble something that's happened to him before, he's able to avoid and push back at Shard, no matter what it is. And Metal declares that terminate target, then city and all in it. As we can see, as soon as he says this, Shard gets really mad and blasts him really hard. But of course it still doesn't work, as Metal tells him, you are good, I am better, superior. And then we get this page. Yeah, this story has made me cry a few times, and this is definitely a big reason for it. As Shard says, it doesn't have to be like this. Look, take it from me. There can be more to life than just Priority 1 Hedgehog. You've got the same inner spark, too, right? You can grow, just like me. You can be more than just a weapon or a tool. And then he has a flashback to all the way what Shadow said to him back in Sonic Universe 1, which in real life was a 4-year wait. As the line from before, you were only a weapon in the Doctor's eyes, a tool, something only for misery and destruction. And despite his whole soft reboot defines kill switch thing, Metal actually questions this for a second. He really thinks about it. But then thanks to that switch, he instantly goes back to wanting to kill Shard. And this is where Shard says, there really is no potential for good in you, is there? Eggman robbed you of that. You'll probably kill them all now if I don't stop you here and now. Yeah, this is just such great writing. Shard, as I said before, Shard was able to do the right thing because he had a free will. But Metal, this new version of Metal Sonic, he was designed to have no free will. He was designed to be nothing more than a killing machine. Any reservations he might have are immediately tossed out, and he just has no opportunity for good. He's not like Scourge, who I mentioned earlier, who had an opportunity for good, who just completely ignored it and didn't care. This Metal Sonic literally cannot be good. So Shard does his best to fight him, as he says, if I'm gonna protect her, everybody, sorry brother, I've gotta put you down, and I blame Eggman for making me do this. His first person he thinks about protecting is Nicole, and then everyone else. And then, but also, as he says, I blame Eggman for making me do this. He doesn't want to kill his brother. He wants him to have a chance for good, but he just doesn't. And so their fight goes on again. The stakes really amp up. Shard says, if I gotta go, we go together. And Metal says, warning, yeah, you're gonna explode, self-destruct. And Shard says, it's not about me, it never was. And I've gotta end you since you'll never understand that. And Shard self-destructs, blowing the two of them to pieces. But Shard has somewhat survived. He's incredibly beaten up, is missing his leg and one of his hands. Was able to contact Nicole a bit, and he tells her that, yeah, I need an emergency pickup, and Metal Sonic has been defeated, but it's not really because I fought him well, but hey, I'm surviving long enough to gloat. She tells him that she's got people on the way to save him. He says that Metal Sonic is a lot more dangerous than he used to be. He's not just a weapon anymore. And that he wants to say something to her, and then he just gets cut off. And did Shard die? I mean, this story was only even exists because the original Sonic Universe 50 story had to be scrapped last minute, and the reboot was happening, so Ian Flynn shoved in this story last minute. Which is also the reason why Sonic Tails and Amy even met him in that Knuckles story. So, I don't know, I think he is meant to die, but it's only because this story was written with the knowledge that the comic would be rebooted in the next issue, but as it stands, well, obviously I wouldn't want this to be the actual canon story had Archie Sonic continued, which thankfully we have Archie Sonic Online for that, but since the comic was ending next issue, I really like this. This is a great send-off for a character who was very likable, sure, but didn't have much screen or page time rather, but this just sends him off as such a likable and surprisingly nuanced character. But if we see, of course, Metal Sonic Eggman recovered his parts and rebuilt Metal Sonic. And he tells him how, yeah, I won, technically, both of the power gems have been lost. And Eggman says, whatever. And now I've got you for much bigger plans, referring to the Mega Man crossover. And he says how, oh, don't pout. You are now perfected. You now think as viciously as you attack. You are my undying, heartless weapon of misery and despair. How do you like that? And Metal Sonic says, mission objective is acceptable. All will pay. And this is the second to last story pre-reboot Archie Sonic. And, wow. I don't even know what to say. I've thought about this story before. I've read these issues multiple times, but actually talking about it is quite another thing. This is one of the reasons why I'm excited for Shadow Generations, because it actually looks deep, and one of the reasons why I don't like IDW or Frontier stories. They try to paint themselves as deep, but they really aren't. In fact, there is an IDW annual story called Weapons with Omega and General. It's just a complete ripoff of this, but it is a super short story that isn't based off anything, and has absolutely none of the heart, depth, and nuance that made this story work. Because yeah, this is, in my opinion, the most deep, nuanced, and complex story in Sonic history. And what do you know, Sonic barely features in it. Except the one time he does, he still has a very important part to say in it. That informs the readers anyway, but okay, I don't have much time left, so I gotta go, but this story will always amaze me, and while it's not my favorite story arc, because it's not a story arc, this might actually be my favorite Sonic story ever. So, comment down below what you thought of this. That's all for now, and as always, keep on juicing.